Here I am again with another battle report and another sort of themed army list. Right now we're looking at what is essentially a retro list for the Eldar. It follows a couple rules. One is an old rule that came from 2nd edition, where for every 2 units with shuriken catapults, Guardians needed a unit without shuriken catapults. And back then it was las guns, but now I'm using it as a close combat squad. Also, the aspects max out at 8, including the Exarch. That comes from 2nd edition, where the aspect squads were max size 7, and then the Exarchs were independent characters. And for 3rd edition, for every aspect unit, there has to be at least 1 Guardian squad from the Ulthwe rules back then. We can start off here with the HQs. We have an avatar of the Bloody-Handed God, Ulthwe Classic, Eldrad Ulthwe. Moving on to troops, we have 3 units of Guardians to start off. All of them are 15 strong, including the Warlocks. The Storm Guardians here have a Warlock with Destructor and 2 Flamers. The Guardian Defenders here have a Shuriken Cannon and Conceal. And these Guardians also have Conceal, and then they have a Scatter Laser. And both Warlocks are armed with Singing Spears. Finishing up troops, we have a Dire Avenger unit, and the Exarch has Defend and Power Weapon and Shimmer Shield. And then for elites, we have Howling Banshees with an Exarch with an Executioner. She also has Acrobatic. We have a unit of Striking Scorpions. The Exarch has the Power Claw, and they have the Stalker Exarch power. We have a unit of Harlequins with a Shadow Seer and a Troop Master. And all of them except the Troop Master have a Harlequin's Kiss, while the Troop Master has a Power Weapon. For heavy support, we have a unit of Warwalkers, all armed with dual missile launchers. And then finally, we have the Phoenix Bomber again. Put in a real good showing the last time, and hopefully this time can do a little bit more of the same.
Alright, so here we are today for a 2,000 point game. Myself versus my buddy Dan. Eldar versus Eldar. I'm bringing a Craft World Iyanden Spirit Host army. Rather restricting in terms of what I'm going to bring, but we'll go over it piece by piece. And here's the Spirit Host right here. We got the centerpiece, Wraithseer, followed by 2 squads of Wraithguard, each with Spirit Seers and Conceal. We've got a Farseer with Spirit Stones, Doom, and Fortune, and both the runes. We've got 2 Wraith Lords, one with a Wraith Sword, the other with an Eldar Missile Launcher, and a Scatter Laser. And then we've got the Nightwing here in Fast Attack, courtesy of Dan. I'm bringing that. It's more of a test game for that in my respect, because I'm considering whether or not to convert one, or at least have Dan convert one for me. I'm rather limited in terms of soft bodies for this game. I've got a squad of Dire Avengers fully kitted out, along with the Shimmer Shield and Power Weapon Exarch in the Wave Serpent right there with Twin Link Bright Lances and Spirit Stones. And I got a 5-man squad of Warp Spiders. They, ironically, have been my best anti-tank in the past few games. But we'll see whether or not that works out again.
Well, we ended up going for battle missions. We rolled up a Vanguard mission where Clay is playing as Space Marines for this mission. And this is my force all deployed. Clay will be moving on turn 1. He automatically starts at the first turn. And let's see how ugly this gets.
Okay, so top of turn 1. Spirit Host made it onto the board. Everything except for the Warp Spiders, which are remaining reserve, came onto the right of my table edge and let loose with what I had to fire. I destroyed the Phoenix with my Bright Lances. I have 3 of them. One of them's twin linked. The Nightshade took a couple shots, took off a Pulse Laser, and shook the vehicle, but my Wave Serpent with the Twin Link Bright Lance finished it off. My Wraith Lords and Wraith Seer ended up shooting at the War Walkers. Shook a couple of them, so only one of them is going to be able to fire next turn, but no lasting damage. Wraith Guard moved up the table a bit. They're providing cover for the Wraith Lords, but otherwise they're there to be shot at. My Dire Avengers got out turn 1 from the Wave Serpent within range of the squad of Harlequins. Let loose with Blade Storm, took out everyone except for the troop leader. And that is about the extent of things.
Apparently this is going to be one of those games. I did manage to shoot down the Nightwing. The Guardians knocked off a weapon, and then the last of my Warwalkers that could fire did manage to down it. That was the crowning achievement of my turn. Outside of that, the only time I rolled higher than a 2 to run was when I did so with my Guardians there, who are packed in a bunch. The Striking Scorpions, between move through cover, which they do have the Stalker rule, and their run, managed to get an extra 4 inches of movement. The Dire Avengers are bundled up there. What was left of my Harlequins managed to actually make it into combat despite running a 1 on the run roll, and my Troop Master then managed 3 wounds, all of which Clay saved thanks to the Shimmer Shield, and then he beat the Troop Master to death. So as you can see, it's a stellar turn, and this is going to be a long and painful game.
Alright, it's the top of turn 2, and I've continued my advance down the field. Both my Wraith Guard units are bunching up there to move up ahead, and my Wraith Lords took more shots. My Dire Avengers got back in the Wave Serpent, and that backpedaled. They'll be ready after firing Blade Storm last turn to go again next turn. All of Dan's units are bunched up in the middle there. Unfortunately, the decannon from my Wraith Seer failed to do most anything. In fact, I didn't really inflict much in terms of casualties beyond a nice volley from my gun-armed Wraith Lord against the Dire Avenger squad, which took out a few regulars, and I managed to blow up one of the War Walkers. Beyond that, very little action. I imagine that more may happen when Dan advances on his turn 2. We'll see what happens then.
For the bottom of my turn 2, I kind of moved my front lines back, retreated a bit where I could, and of course the Banshees couldn't move as fast as I needed them to. The Guardians did hold their own against these Wraith Guard here, surprisingly. I managed to get them down to just 4 Wraith Guard, and 5 Wraith Guard in the 2 characters. It's like they keep growing. And over here I had an entirely ineffective assault thanks to Feel No Pain and my pretty horrible rolling. And here yet another ineffective assault thanks to my inability to hit with the Avatar on a 3-op. However, I did score 1 wound on that Wraith Lord thanks to the Scatter Laser.
Alright, top of turn 3, my Warp Spiders came out on the edge of the board down here, and they launched their fusillade against the Howling Banshees that were guarding the objective there. Joined with my Dire Avengers that rejoined the fight from the Wave Serpent. They wiped out the squad. Unfortunately, my Wave Serpent was immobilized going through difficult terrain to unload them and missed with its Bright Lance. However, my Wraith Seer joined the fight against the Avatar with the other Wraith Lord. They combined to inflict 3 wounds while taking none. Those Wraith Blades really make a difference when fighting the Avatar when you've got those high 2 hits. Well, they make a difference in any fight since you have so many attacks. Striking Scorpions fighting a losing battle as was expected, but managed to take down... Did he take down 1? Yeah, he took down 1. And the rest of his squad was wiped out. The Exarch is still in there due to being fearless from the Avatar, but that'll likely be the last turn. One of the War Walkers is immobilized, so if he moves again with them, it's kaput. my Wraithguard won their close combat against the Guardians, drove them off, chased them down with the Farseer's help, and from that point on, it is Dan's turn.
So at the bottom of my third turn, my army has been quickly compressing. I tied up the Warp Spiders in combat, and here I swapped places for the 2 Guardian squads. And my avatar did kill a Wraithlord and was smoked in response. And that's about it. I'm quickly and concentratedly losing ground to the robotic space zombie elves.
Alright, top of turn 4. First, let's start with my Farseer, which splatted itself on perils of the warp, trying to fortune the Wraithseer. The Wraithseer, however, used his psychic power to pin Eldrad's Guardian squad over there, so they're pinned for the next turn. My Wraithguard advanced on the middle objective, fired down on that same squad, inflicted a number of casualties. My Weapons Wraithlord over there fired some shots off at the other Guardian squad, inflicted a casualty, but nothing major. Other than that, the Battle of the Losers over here, the depleted Dire Avenger squad versus the minimum Warp Spider squad, they each inflicted another casualty this turn. That combat remains drawn, and there is very little else going on at this point.
In another monumental turn, I lost combat here but passed my leadership test. Now I have just the Exarch there. This is the top of turn 4. Bottom of turn 4. And that's it. I also managed to fortune my unit there with Eldrad, and I managed to doom the Wraithseer, because that's what this game is now. I have almost nothing left on the board.
Alright, top of turn 5. I finished off the Dire Avenger Exarch here, and advanced with my Wraith units on Eldrad's Guardian squad. Held out for this phase at least. I eliminated the Guardians. All that is left is the Warlock and Eldrad himself. I lost a Wraithguard, but I took out 4 of the Guardians, and they passed their morale check. An errant plasma missile. They pinned the Storm Guardian squad, which is somewhat irrelevant since they're holding that 3rd objective there. My Dire Avengers are advancing, and my Wave Serpent remains pinned, or rather not pinned, but immobilized. And that is the end of the turn.
My turn consisted of this combat where I managed to cause 1 wound on a Wraithguard, and they did nothing to me in return. Thank God for fortune. Doom didn't help too much because I only had 1 hit out of the group. And Clay's...
It totally helped. 2 hits, and you failed 3 hits, and you failed 2 saves against Eldrad. You got to re-roll them.
I said Doom, not Fortune.
Oh, Fortune.
Yeah,
yes.
Fortune was
Doom.
awesome.
Okay.
And you want to roll for the end of game?
Sure.
Okay, the game continues with a 4.
Thank God.
Clay was worried because he might have accidentally lost this game.
Alright, top of turn 6. I got my Dire Avengers over to the center objective. My Wraithguard over to the side objective. So I hold 2 objectives now. I managed to finally splat Eldrad with my Wraithseer, and my Wraithguard barely finished off the final Warlock, and they advanced on the Guardian squad that holds the remaining objective, which was once again pinned by the plasma missile from my Gun Wraithlord. And since that squad is pinned, it is the only remaining squad on the field for Dan, so for all intents and purposes, that is also the bottom of turn 6. So now we're going to roll off, see if the game continues.
Game ends.
And the game is over. Dice is somewhere. There it is.
Iyanden,
and that is the end.
To 1 for Ulthwe.
Yes. Victory for Iyanden. Hard-fought battle.
I got my ass handed to me. I played an unusual list for me, and without me skimmers having a lot of foot troops, um, that probably had to be part of my downfall. Is that I'm not used to the list, so I probably made some really bad choices in there. Uh, while my rolling wasn't substantial, it's my job to overcome that, and I didn't. I also didn't overcome the Wraithwall that just marched in at me. I think I had a pretty good early setup. I took a lot more damage to the face than I thought I would in the first turn, but I was able to strike back, taking out the Nightwing, which took out the fastest unit that Clay had, considerably faster than even the Wave Serpent. But he made excellent use of the Wave Serpent with the Dire Avengers, which is something I'm used to seeing his Dire Avengers foot slogging. He doesn't normally transport hop like he did this game.
When I do, they suck.
So overall, I mean, Clay just played the hell out of me, and I know a lot of people would have conceded earlier on when the game was definitely out of hand, and I think Clay more than earned beating my face in on this game. So he really, really just tore through my list. He knows this list so well, and this is the first time in a while where I've seen him use as many Wraith units as he did in one game, taking on, was it 2 Wraith Lords or
2 Wraith Lords, Wraith Seer, 20 Wraith Guard.
It's a lot to overcome, especially considering what my
Guardian
what my
based.
army build was. Yeah, I had a lot of strength 4, and at one point he had a Wraith Guard unit that had Fortune, Feel No Pain. There just wasn't much I could do to them. I tried to hold them up as much as I could for as long as I could, and I just couldn't get it done. I couldn't connect with enough force to actually delay his units from getting where they eventually wanted to go. Totally forgot to mention, unit of the match goes to Eldar, simply because he was really, really a thorn in Clay's side because he was just so difficult to kill. He survived, I think, 9 hits or 10 hits from the
instant death, yeah.
Yeah, from the Wraith Seer with that rerollable 3 and up before he finally got splatted.
Runes as well.
And then, and the runes managed to kill off the other Farseer. I kept doing more damage to Clay during his turn than during my own. That's how his Farseer died, took 2 wounds that way. His Wraith Seer took a wound that way, and his Exarch for the Warp Spiders died when he jumped into difficult terrain.
I also immobilized
his own Wave Serpent, which actually helped me out because it prevented him from being able to contest my 1 victory point late in the game. So
that would have been a dick move.